finally decide to sell. The bottom is going to drop out of this market. The big index names, the market will correction in this bear market until we take those big companies out behind the barn and shoot them. So it's going to happen. I think passive investing is going to go away. And I think the people who are investing with their brains, right? The people who actually think for a living and analyze stocks and try to buy the ones that are undervalued, they're the ones that have been punished during this mania because people have been taking away money from the guys that are using their head and they're sending it to people who aren't using their head at all. They're just mindlessly buying everything. But if everybody is doing that in the short run, then that's what works. And if everybody is taking money away from the value investors, and now they have to sell their value stocks to return money to their clients, those stocks keep on going down. And people think they don't know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. They're not dumb enough to buy all the overpriced crap that the index funds are buying. So all this is going to collapse. All the people who've been mindlessly chasing these indexes are going to get wiped out. And the people who have been smart and who've been finding value and have been avoiding participating in the mania, they're going to round up on top. Unfortunately, there's not that many of those guys left because most of them went out of business. They threw in the towel because, they didn't want to participate in that nonsense. And so they left and they're doing something else. How many of the books behind you have you read? None. These aren't my books. These are my mom's books. My mom moved out to Puerto Rico with us. She was in Florida and she moved and she's now spending time with us in Puerto Rico and in Connecticut. She just turned 79 a couple of days ago. And one of the things she moved here was a bunch of books that she had. And the only bookshelves we really had in this house are my office. And believe me, if I turn this camera around, I've got so many shelves in this office that are still empty because we're still in the process of furnishing the house here. And so I stored all of her books. Now, apparently my mom has read every single one of those books. My library of books is still in Connecticut, right? Where I have a lot of economics books and history books. There's a lot. This is all, trashy novels. They look fancy, but they're not. But there's some of them. My mom has some intellectual reading. I mean, she also has some, quality nonfiction books in there. But there's a lot of stuff that, I don't have time to read. I'm knocking people who read fiction. I mean, if you have time to do it, I mean, it's good. My son reads a lot of fiction. But I just don't have that time right now to do that. So yeah, I mean, there may have been one or two that I've read if they got stuck in there. But I mainly just I needed a decent background. And so I figured, books on the shelf was better than nothing. But it's not a fake background. That's an actual shelf. In my studio in San Juan, on my backdrop, I actually have a fake bookcase that we put up behind me. And it looks like I'm sitting in front of a real bookcase when I'm not. There's a screen. But here I'm actually sitting in front of an actual bookcase. Here's a $50 question. I hope I can speak with you on the phone. Emmanuel Rothschild. Well, you can call Euro Pacific Capital. The number's on the website. When you get a receptionist, you tell them that you're calling for Peter Schiff, and they'll probably ask you a few questions, and if you can get through the screeners, then you can talk to me. I mean, I talk to people every day. Problem is, there's only so many hours in the day. I mainly talk to clients, but I also talk to prospective clients. I have some brokers that work for me that talk to prospective clients too. But certainly, if you're a large prospective client, that helps you jump to the front of the line, which is the same thing we're doing with with these questions, right? Obviously, if you pay money, you jump to the head of the line. I mean, that's just the way we can allocate things in a free market system. It's much better than the way the socialists like to allocate things. Number one, they go to people who have political connections. And then after that, everybody waits in a long line. So the capitalist system of allocating resources works a lot better, much more efficient, and much more fair. Anyway, next up. Rental properties. Early progress of refi to pull out a couple 100,000. Should I move forward and buy gold? Look, it depends, how long the term on the loan is. Is it 5-year loan, 10-year loan? What are the terms? But yeah, as I said, look, there's cheap money available. I don't know how much longer this cheap money is going to be around. I think that people should take advantage of it, because I think the fools are the ones lending the money. I think they're going to get screwed because they're going to get paid back with, near worthless money. So if you can borrow money that you think is going to be worthless, and you can afford to comfortably service the debt, and then you can use the money to acquire things that are not going to be worthless, that are going to retain their value, or that are going to increase in value, I think it's a smart move. But it may not be smart for everybody, and everybody has different financial circumstances. So you've got to know your own circumstances and decide whether taking on that debt is something that makes sense for you. Because I don't know, and I don't know everybody's circumstances. Oh, the first Bitcoin question. I'm surprised that I haven't had more Bitcoin questions. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that I'm not being inundated with Bitcoin questions, but here is a Bitcoin question. My brother thinks Bitcoin is going to 100,000 once hyperinflation hits. Please explain why Bitcoin is fool's gold. Thank you for your help. Please run for president in 2024. Maybe it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out, but anyway. But look, if we have hyperinflation, then yes, Bitcoin could be $100,000 a coin if we have hyperinflation. But then a loaf of bread could be $1 million a loaf, in which case your Bitcoin is practically worthless at $100,000 a Bitcoin, right? So in hyperinflation, the price of everything goes, sky high. Now, to take your Bitcoin question from a different angle, will the price of Bitcoin, if there's hyperinflation, buy you, in terms of real goods or in terms of gold, what $100,000 will buy you now? I mean, $100,000 today, with gold at $1,500 an ounce, I'm just using a calculator, you can buy about 67 ounces of gold if you had $100,000. So the question is, will you be able to buy 67 ounces of gold with Bitcoin if there's hyperinflation? And I think not a prayer, not a chance. I don't think if you took $100,000 and you put it into Bitcoin today, if there's hyperinflation, I don't even think you'll be able to buy 1 ounce of gold, let alone 67, right? So, the answer is no. And the reason why I think it's fool's gold is because it has none of the actual tangible properties of gold, right? It can't be worn as jewelry. It doesn't conduct electricity. It doesn't have any of the properties that makes gold so valuable. And the reason gold is a store of value is because you're storing those properties for the future. See, I can take my gold today and melt it down and use it in a circuit board, or I can use it, to fill somebody's tooth in a crown, or I can make a necklace out of it, or I can just keep it in a coin. And in 50 years or 100 years, somebody can do those things with it, because gold doesn't lose any of its properties over time. The gold that exists today is exactly the same as the gold that existed hundreds of years ago. And it's the same as it will exist hundreds of years from now. So it's the best commodity for storing value, right? So it's a store of value. Bitcoin has no value to store. It's nothing. What gives Bitcoin value is the belief that it's going to go up, right? The fact that your brother thinks that Bitcoin will be worth $100,000, that's why he owns it, because he thinks he's going to get rich. But he's wrong, because the supply of fools is going to run out. And your brother may not be a fool in that he may be a very intelligent person. And there are a lot of people who are intelligent who are being foolish when it comes to Bitcoin. See, being foolish, being a fool, is you've been fooled by something, right? You believe something that's wrong. So when I'm saying that people who are in Bitcoin are fools, I'm not saying they're dumb or they're not intelligent, but they are fooled because they've been fooled by all the hype. They believe something foolish, so they are fools for believing in Bitcoin. Now, was somebody foolish who bought Bitcoin 10 years ago and who cashed out and made a lot of money? Maybe they were foolish and got lucky, or maybe they were smart and they anticipated that other people would be foolish, and they made a bet that there'd be a bunch of fools who would be, willing to buy Bitcoin at a higher price. But the person who bought Bitcoin a long time ago and who hasn't sold it and who rides it all the way back down to zero, he's the biggest fool of all. He